Hey everyone, welcome to our Patreon episode, our Around the Basket. It's episode number 2. You know you can join us live for this one through Patreon on Wednesdays. We say around 8:10 p.m., but it's 8:27 p.m. this time, but that's because we had a great interview with Kevin King earlier, and we just wrapped it up. And if you don't catch our Patreon live through the link, which is now free, you can all...
And it's working.
And it's working?
We're working.
That's better than last week.
There you go.
Right.
Now we just got to work on timing. Sorry.
Yeah. We'll put it out on YouTube at a later point so you can catch it there. So last week we had a great conversation with Clive Lovett and Carrie Neal from the Flight Paths podcast.
Yeah.
We talked about podcasting. We talked about how to support Team Canada. And we kind of finished up with some of our disc golf pet peeves. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to do, is we want to give you a conversation, a discussion, bring up some ideas, throw them around, maybe beat each other up on them a few times, and have a laugh while we're at it. So one thing about these Patreon episodes is that we're happy to say we have our first 2 Patreon subscribers. Woo-hoo!
High five, buddy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we want to give them a shout out.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that for us?
We can do that for sure. Our first 2 subscribers, the first ever subscriber.
Oh,
you
yes.
know his name.
Yes, we do.
It's Mr. Brock Ciochetti.
Yes.
And friend of the show, Andrea Michaud, was our second
Did you make it
subscriber.
rhyme on purpose there? That was
poet,
good.
and I
Friend
didn't
of the
even
show,
know.
Andrea Michaud.
Yeah. Hi,
Oh.
Dylan. Dylan's back in the chat again. He just joined us on our podcast, or Chain Out podcast, and now he's here on Around the Basket. So Dylan's a big supporter.
That's nice. Well, you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to distract myself a little bit later. Because if you remember, Andrea Michaud had messaged us.
Yeah.
And we were talking about her name because how I do pronunciations, my Fritia Farga Green and that type of thing. Well,
Miguel Alvarado.
yes. Andrea says that she has a name so long that you can't even, a Starbucks cup isn't enough to do it. And I said I would try to pronounce it on the episode one of these times.
Yeah.
So I've got to pull that up, but we'll do that a little later.
Right.
But thank you to both of you for joining the Patreon. We really appreciate it. And when Brock joined the Patreon, we asked him, we said, hey, what did you think about last week's episode, the Around the Basket? You know, what types of topics might you want to hear about? You know, you're a patron now. What do you want to hear? And he came up with so many good ideas that we thought, why not just have him join us and talk about some of them?
Makes sense.
So he's the Edmonton Disc Golf Association, or EDGA as we like to call it, vice president.
Current.
Yes, current vice president. And he's going to bring a bit of a board member perspective as well as a player perspective, as a TD perspective. He's got so many hats that he wears, and we're excited to get to it. So let's do it.
There we go. Welcome, Brock.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
How are you doing?
good. Jeremy, I've got so many hats because gotta protect the dome.
That's right. That's it. You know, for these podcasts, do you put a little what do you call it, powder or something on it? Because that's what I'm always wondering about. You know, to keep the shine.
No, it's pretty shiny. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well, as we said, thank you for being our first ever Patreon member. We really appreciate that. And and thanks for joining us too to kind of have one of these around the basket conversations where they're a lot more loose. I'll tell you that. They kind of have a little bit of flow. So,
And we know that he has one of the best forehands that anyone's ever seen. So, yeah.
not only the best forehands, I should have put that in there, probably one of the quickest setup and throws that I've ever seen as well. I don't know. I know you've heard that a number of times, Brock.
And that's a bit of a throwback to last week's episode. We're talking about pet peeves. One of mine is slow play. People that will watch you take your throw, and then they decide to walk up to their lie. Then they decide to get a disc out of their bag. Then they decide between 2 discs. I've barely, the disc is barely out of my hand before the next disc
goes flying by.
It's never normally that way because I'm always behind Brock. Brock was always going to outdrive me. But yeah, no waiting for Brock. I like playing with Brock.
Yeah.
It was actually a problem at Nationals on a few holes.
Oh, really?
I was getting ready to go and nobody else was even settled. So sometimes I need to slow it down myself. But
Gotcha. So were you yelling at the podcast when we were talking about that and Daryl was mentioning the slow play? Were you like, so true, so true?
I mean, like, I don't do it because, like, I guess it doesn't really bother me when other players do it.
Okay.
I don't like. I like to say that thinking isn't my strong suit, if that makes sense. Like, if I start thinking about the throw and my putts and stuff, I find it does worse. So,
Gotcha. Okay, well, that makes sense. Well, one other thing I wanted to add before we really dig into some topics was you were one of our early guests on Chain Out. So it seemed very fitting to have you join us on Around the Basket. And your audio sounds a lot less witness protection-y tonight than it did maybe on that first episode.
Yeah. I stopped playing with my settings, left them alone for the last year or so, and we're good.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go back to watch Brock's episode. But speaking of being on the podcast,
and that's episode 11, by the way. If
episode
people
11,
want to go check it out.
Yeah. Then you did make a little cameo appearance on our Ask Me Anything episode, because you joined us live to show off the doubles discs that you were revealed on the podcast for us. So we're glad we had you on then. And you were also on the Larger Than Life fantasy episode that we were doing as well. So you're giving Tim a run for his money.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
and now you're back on for the Ask Me Anything or the Around the Basket.
Yeah, I gotta keep Tim on his toes. Give him something to keep working on, right?
Can't let him run away with everything. Yeah.
No,
definitely. Well, Brock, we wanted to get started. Was last week we had Karen Martell and Chris Brown on from Australia, and we were talking about the Whiff Diff Team Disc Golf Championships, and they were happening at that time. But now they're finished. The tournament's done. Canada has won the bronze medal, and I kind of wanted to know, what do we all think about that? Is that where we think Canada should have performed to, or was it better than where they might have placed with the 22 teams that were participating? What do you think?
I think looking at the teams that were there and the players who actually showed up for their countries.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense where Canada ended up, except for that vicious spit out that cost them the finals. But
yeah.
I mean, you look at Estonia and it's not that surprising how they just crushed everyone. But no, I think Canada, even though we don't have the same playing season as a lot of players, our proximity to the juggernaut that is the United States, we do have a pretty big community to pull from, even if they're not on the pro tour. So
I think I agree, but I do think that we ended up in a pool that was a little bit more difficult when we had to go up against Norway, Finland, Australia. We had to go up against these, or do we go? Yeah, it was Australia. Did we go up against them in the beginning or no?
Yeah, we played them.
Yeah.
I don't know which round it was, but I know we did play them.
Yeah, so it felt like we had one. And when I was looking at Estonia, what I saw was, I'm always looking, like you said, is who did they send from the countries to represent? And I saw a couple names I knew. So I saw Maury Villman, and he's 1030 rated, I think it is what his rating is. And then I also saw Katie Tat, I think is her name, and that name looked familiar to me. So there's a couple pros there, but I wonder what it would have been like if, like you said, that spit out didn't happen against Australia, and instead of Australia going to the gold medal game, it was Canada. What would it, because we didn't even get a chance to play Estonia, so we don't know how we would have done it.
Yeah, I think more so, Canada getting bronze is definitely a great accomplishment. Out of the teams that went, getting a medal at all, you've got to be happy with that. The thing that surprised me, and I guess maybe this goes back to, whether home field advantage really does help, because I was surprised that Australia actually took down the silver medal.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they had that good of a team. I would have thought that if you looked at the teams, and I know we mentioned this to, I think when we had Karen Martell on originally, she said, have you seen our team and have you seen everybody else's team? Canada's a pretty stacked team. If you look at all the pros in Canada, they pretty much all went. When you look at the States, nobody, like you were saying, like you said, they've got a bigger pool to pick from. And we mentioned Carrie and Clive last week, and they were saying about, Carrie and Clive were having that debate about Clive wanted America to do terribly.
Yes.
Because then it would force them to try and send some better players next year because they didn't want to be that, trounced upon. But then looking on the flip side, maybe it's not worth their time for all these high sponsored players to go to Australia just to compete in this little tournament. But out of all the teams that went, we sent a stacked team.
Yeah.
So I think that our team was strong enough to beat Australia.
Fair.
So is it okay? Yes, we got bronze, and we're happy because we got a medal. But when you look at the teams in the overall, I think we probably should have either been in silver or pushing for that gold medal. I'm not saying they did bad, because I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay,
well,
good.
Yeah, and I think, like, again, I haven't dug deep into the whiff diff seating and stuff like that, but
right.
Maybe there's something to do with, like, how the pools are made next time, being like, okay, these 4 to 6 teams were the top, so they all get put in their own division,
right?
And then like you seed them that way instead of like a random draw where you can just get a group of death and right. Teams that should have gone farther don't because they went up against the top 2 teams or whatever.
Yeah,
it works out. So
yeah, that's a fair point. And I do think another thing that they could look at was both our match, so, you know, playing maybe devil's advocate against Canada, was Finland had to go against a tiebreaker against Canada. And was 1 hole, 2 players who made that decision of who was going to go on forward. And it was 1 throw that went out of bounds that caused that loss to Finland and that Canada moved forward. And we were so happy and so excited when that happened. And then sure enough, up against Australia, what happens? We go right back to the exact same hole, 2 players facing off one-on-one, 1 hole, and then this time Canada puts it out of bounds, unfortunately, and that's what costs us from moving forward. So maybe one of the things they could do is look at what PDGA has made available to tournament directors and make it a 3-hole, or make it 3 holes in 1 player for each hole, or something like that, as opposed to just that 1 hole after all of this competition and 1 mistake get you out. But
yeah, especially with it being a team challenge, it would be nice to involve the entire team in the playoff, I guess.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah, that's a fair point too. Yeah. So I don't know what other ways they could do that with, is maybe have everybody do 1 playoff hole against the matching person, first against first, second against second, down the ratings or something, and see. But it would probably lengthen it, and I know they don't want to wear players out, and they part of that, they start out with just 9-hole rounds, and then they move to the 18-hole rounds as the tournament gets deeper.
Yeah.
But in any event, Canada getting bronze, what's that do? That gets them down to China next year for the World Championships, so that's exciting for that. And all of the players, like, I've been loving opening up my Instagram every single day and seeing all the cool stuff they're posting about being on the trip. It really makes you feel like, hey, how do I get there? How do I get to Team Canada? I know that's probably not in the cards, but if they need an MP60 one day, maybe I can get there.
Well, so my wife is assistant manager for Team Canada for her dog agility. So I do see a lot of the stuff she's doing, and she gets to go to the Netherlands each year with the team to compete. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you want to be on the admin side for that. So
gotcha.
Well, we brought that up last week as well, not to delve too back into our past episodes, but just your wife is lucky enough to go to the Netherlands, but that's not a cheap thing to do. Mm-hmm. Team Canada went to Australia. They had to fundraise themselves. So
yeah, there's part of it. Just because you're a great player doesn't mean you can go, because if you've got to sponsor yourself and you're still maybe starting out in your work life and maybe you're paying off school debt or something like that, unless you've got somebody to help you, $5,000 just to get there and then to feed yourself and everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a certain interesting part.
But we also talked about, go back and watch episode 1, because we do delve a little bit more into how they can do more for sponsorship, and they can do more for promoting the players and everything like that. But
well, so maybe we end that one on just like, way to go, Canada. Good job getting bronze. It was unfortunate that putt went viral pretty good too. It felt like, like that.
Oh yeah.
and so many different versions of it, slow mode with music behind it. Everybody's posting it. And I don't know if you guys saw, but did you see the other post that Team Canada put up of them throwing up baskets after
Yeah.
after that
No, I
missed
didn't see
one?
that one.
Oh, so it just shows all these discs. You don't see anybody. You see all these discs where they're just throwing anything they can at this basket,
I think
and
there's
it's
a doll.
crashing out. And then at the very end, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this doll flies into the basket. So it was just a matter of no matter what they threw at it, it wasn't going to go in. And then
I think
it was Birdcage who chimed in after, wasn't it?
Yeah, birdcage baskets. I know a basket that wouldn't happen on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even one step further, like it just kind of kept building because Birdcage Baskets went out and then made a Team Canada A, was because that was what the cheer was. It was like 1, 2, 3 Team Canada A. So they made a basket with Team Canada A around the top.
Yeah.
So
That was an awesome.
I think that type of stuff just brings so much more attention to Canadian disc golf, and that's exciting as well. So great finish with the bronze.
Yeah.
And that, so Daryl, where you want to move next?
So, like you said, Brock gave us some suggestions of topics that we can discuss, and one of the ones that he kind of put forward, and I think it's a great topic that we can discuss, is if we get onto the topic of how to cater to the AMs and pros at tournaments.
And maybe do you want to start us off with that, Brock? Because that was kind of one of the ideas you brought up. Kind of what were your thoughts? We have some thoughts on it, but why don't you start the conversation?
Yeah, so I think something that kind of you always see advertised on the front of disc golf scene and everything is how much added cash you've got for a tournament.
Right.
And sometimes I get that, like, there's so much focus put on that, and that money's going directly to the cash prizes for the pros.
Right.
But then you look at the registrations for these tournaments, and it's well over 50, 60, 70% AMs in these tournaments.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of this disconnect, I feel sometimes, where that money, that extra money we're bringing in, isn't really going proportionately to, like, everyone in the tournament, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, just before we dig in to talk more about that, I want to shout out to Dylan and Sam are currently in the chat there. And as you guys are hearing us talk, if you've got a comment or something that you want to add to what we're chatting about, definitely throw it in there, and we'll throw some of those up as they fit into the conversation. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the Patreon's all about. To touch on what you exactly what you were saying there, and it's a thing that I didn't bring up on air because I didn't know how I felt about it at the time, but when we were talking to Daryl Banks about the Inn of a Rip and how he was promoting it and everything was great, and he was mentioning, he's like, yeah, we've got all this extra added cash. When you look at the Rip specifically, like the players that are coming up from the States to play it, okay, I get it, you're adding the extra cash because that's getting those big names up to promote the event, and you get those bigger names, they're gonna draw more attention, you're going to get more crowds, you're going to get more tickets, visitor passes and things like that sold. But exactly what you were saying, I in my mind, and I think I mentioned it to you afterwards, I was thinking all that extra added cash that you got there could have gone to the volunteers, could have gone to the amateurs, could have gone to other people other than the pros that are making 6 figures a year with their contracts.
Yeah, and like the Rip's kind of a special case because they were able to sell spectator passes.
Right.
So like having those pros there did help them bring in extra money for the tournament. Where as great as our local professionals are, I don't think anyone's coming to River City Cup to specifically spectate the event they're coming to play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and like on like the topic of like volunteering and everything too, like, so when you're running a B tier tournament, 100% of your pro purse, your pro registration fee has to go into the player payouts.
Right.
Right.
So the net sum after your pass-through fees and everything is 0 on pros.
Right.
And with amateurs, your player pack value has to be 100% of their registration. So if you eliminate sponsorships or any grants that you may receive from like a local municipality or something,
Right.
the only way to make that balance, because a B tier also has a $750 cash added requirement, is to find money in the amateur side and move it to the pro side.
Right.
So it's like sponsorships are necessary in that case. $750 isn't a ton of money to have to raise on top of that. And there are grants you can apply for that will cover stuff like volunteer meals and gear for the volunteers and your washroom fees and stuff like that to help balance that out. But there's a lot you have to do just to not have to pull amateur money aside for the pros, I guess.
Right.
So it's an awkward place, and I like that the PDGA has like the tiers and stuff in terms of like the standard of the tournament you have to do. So like an A tier has to have tee times and it has to have permanent tee pads and stuff like that, and B tiers and C tier, like those rules make sense. The financials of it make it harder to run events and cater to everyone, I guess.
Right. So do you think then, Brock, or what do you and Daryl think, if you're organizing a tournament, then what is that ideal ratio that would be the best to make a tournament give the max value to the AMs and to the tournament director for putting, like, however to put it? I know tournament directors don't make any money, but if you've got 100 players entered into a tournament, would it make sense that it's a 20-80 split where you want to have 80% of them be AMs and 20% pros, or what would you think?
I think that's about right. Like, I'd have to look back at what our tournaments have been, kind of thing. But I think like what I'd like to shoot for is, because the AM player packs is always retail value, and that's not what we pay as tournament directors to build your player packs.
Right.
If we're doing a good job, it's usually 50%.
Yeah,
60% what we're paying there. I'd love to be able to spend 100% of the AM money back to them and say, oh yeah, your player pack's actually 200% at this C tier because I was able to find money elsewhere, so I didn't have to spend yours, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then the flip side to that is people like to wait to register.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a very popular tournament. So like it's really hard for me to spend that money
until you have it.
I don't until I have it. Like I can't order stuff and have it turned around in a month.
Right.
Most of the time. So it's a bit of a balancing act in terms of how fast can I get stuff in and how long can I wait.
Yeah. When you think about it too, is that when you do other activities, do I go to a movie theater and I don't know, what am I expecting? I'm going and I'm spending money and I'm getting a product and an experience for the money that I spent. So having 100% of the amount I put into a disc golf tournament back, like that's great. I love it. It's fantastic. But there isn't many other activities where something like that happens. You normally pay, and your participation in that event is what you've paid for. Like I'm not getting free popcorn and pop because I paid to go to a movie theater, if that's a good example. So,
well, the thing that you're getting back from a movie theater or going to a movie is the experience of, like, the enjoyment of watching that movie in a theater surrounding.
What about a baseball game? When you go to a baseball game or a hockey game,
well, yeah, I guess
you're getting the entertainment that you're having. So when you're participating in a sport, you're getting entertainment value, and a PDGA rating, and whatever else.
when you pay your 17, I don't know, I haven't been to a movie for quite a while. You pay your $17 to go watch a movie. You're not expected to get $17 worth of value given back to you, like you said, free popcorn or
intangible value. You're getting an experience is what you're getting, and I would think
you pay an entry fee into a disc golf tournament to play the disc golf tournament. You're still getting the enjoyment of playing the tournament, but then we get this extra. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's why like you've seen EDGA put on more unsanctioned one-day kind of things because we can plan so much better for those events. We know the player pack costs and it's flat. We just this many, and it scales. This many people register. We know our costs stay the same as those come in. Like there's not really money we need to move around. Kind of the base level of people we need to register, sign up, and we're good. And the rest is going to the foundation or stuff like that. So, that's why the space race and USDGC doubles, those things have been great for the club.
Yeah. Well, and, Dylan kind of put it there in the comments that, it's a little bit restricting when you have a percentage as high as it is what I'm getting out of that. If I've got it wrong, Dylan, you could correct me, but like when you have 100% of the value. So do you think it would make sense maybe to make the tournaments better, to allow you to cater more to AMs, give a better experience, get more volunteers, whatever it would be that could be done with the money? If it was more like a 50% of the value or 60%, would that be a better ratio, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Like I don't want to reduce the value of these things. Like I want to get as many sponsors and as many grants and everything and put on the best events that are possible. The reality is, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what the PDGA tries to do with the pass-through fees. So again, anything you specify as a pass-through fee is reduced from the registration fee when you go to calculate payouts. So if I have $100 registration fee and $20 worth of pass-through fees, my player pack value is calculated off of 80. Gotcha. Instead of 100. Same with the pro payouts stuff. It's just you have to be very specific about itemizing your pass-through fees. So you have to say, okay, I'm taking $2 a person for bathroom fees and $10 a person for park rental fees. And all those kind of things.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was kind of where I was done.
So this is kind of on the same lines as what we were talking to Carrie last week about pass-through fees, because she mentioned it. And we were talking, taking back to our previous subject about supporting Team Canada. And she was saying that any event that's run, she could just put it down as a pass-through fee, take $1 from every player. If we did that for every tournament across Canada to go towards Team Canada, kind of like a sponsorship or whatever. So those pass-through fees, do you have to declare them? Like, I know you probably have to have everything itemized, but like, I don't think I've ever remember seeing it being declared on like Disc Golf Scene. I mean, I don't go into the pro payouts, but it should be listed on there.
Yeah, and I believe it was on River City last year, but
right. Okay, I just don't look.
Yeah, it's the requirement. It'll be in the little sidebar there.
So does that? So I'm just trying to get my head around those pass-through fees. If you can say whatever you, or not say whatever you like.
There are limits, I think.
There's limits, but like just going back to this $1 pass-through fee for the sponsoring Team Canada. Would there be any reason? Is it? Do you get pros that look at the payouts and they think, okay, I'm paying $100. They've got X amount of dollars coming out for this, this, and this. That means that actually $80 is only going to be going towards the prize pool. Like, do pros really care what the pass-through fees are? Because that's obviously eating out of their potential cash pot, right?
Yeah, I've never heard of a pro complaining about it, and it's the bookkeeping's a little more straightforward on the pro side because they can go to the event results and do the math. They can say, okay, there were this many pros in my division.
Yeah.
There's this many, like this was the payouts. I can see, like they can reverse engineer the math, I guess.
Yeah.
We have got complaints, unfortunately, from AMs saying, oh yeah, this disc and hat and coupon don't add up to my $80. What are you talking about?
Right. And sorry, that was another point I wanted to mention there is when we say that the value is the key word, right? Because obviously the price that you're getting the discs or the jerseys or whatever extra added goodies that we get added in, you're not getting them for cost, or you're not getting them for that price, right? So it's the value that once it's all added up. If you were to buy those things separately,
like a retail value,
retail value,
your retail value, and you're hoping that you don't have to pay retail value because then you've got no other funds to do the rest of the tournament. Yeah, exactly. But you see things like the get in, get out, get rated event that we just had, and for any player who's played a lot of tournaments, maybe if it's your first tournament and it's your first year and you've just played a couple, getting those prize packs and those player packs is something that you may sign up to a tournament for, because it adds discs to your bag and everything else. But as you get a little seasoned, some of those things you don't need. And then all of a sudden, as a tournament director, how do you choose what the best players pack and how to get that value back so you don't run into those situations like you said, where it's like, oh, well, that's not 80. Like we heard about that. I think you were there as well as I, Brock, and unfortunately Nationals got beat up a little bit. And I think part of the reason is there is this requirement, and a lot of us went to Falcons, and Falcons felt like it was Christmas Day, and you got every gift that you put on your list. And then when we went to Nationals, it was probably a more reasonable setup, and a lot of people felt, if you compared the two, there was a big difference. So I don't know what that answer is to make it, because you want your players to have a good experience, but you don't want them to be soured because they're now doing the math, because they have to get this amount of retail value out of it. I don't know what the solution is there, but
and it's I think it's building the relationships in the disc golf community as well. So you guys have talked to Daryl Banks, we've worked a lot with him as well, and again, he's been a great resource for us to bounce ideas off of or give suggestions to. And I think that's why I'm interested in hearing you guys talk to other TDs as well, so that I can R&D or rob and deploy ideas from them as well. Because I've only been running tournaments for 2 years, and I have a lot to learn still. So
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Daryl, as you as an AM, and now that you've played a dozen tournaments, probably at least.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? If you were saying, okay, Brock's reaching out as a tournament director and he's saying, hey, I want to cater to the AMs. What do you want to see? What would you want out of a tournament? If I put you on the spot, could you come up? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but that's part of what this is supposed to be, right?
No, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, what I want out of a tournament?
Yeah. Aside from the best tournament you've ever played in your score, but
right
after you've done that.
Well, that was going back to real life experience. The first tournament that I did was Battle 6 in Wetaskiwin, and we got 2 discs, we got a whole bunch of snacks, we got remind me, what else did we get?
I can't even remember. So what does that tell
we got
you?
a few things, and
like,
I remember saying
bad,
to you,
but just.
And I remember saying to you, I think it might have been that I got a training bag in the giveaway.
Oh yes,
I bought I bought the tickets, and I was fully invested in the tournament. As we were walking away, you said to me, "You've been spoilt by this tournament because they're not always like this." So I had these expectations of what I should be getting, and then you go to another tournament, you only get 1 disc and a coupon or whatever it might be, right? So. Mm-hmm. What do I want to get out of a tournament? And I said this to you earlier, but before we came on, when we were talking about this, it's funny, like you said, about when you become a seasoned player. I mean, I don't class myself as a seasoned player, but in the beginning, when you're new, what, you're going to give me a disc? You're going to give me 2 discs? I get to choose my disc? Oh, this is amazing. After you've played in quite a few tournaments and then you go and buy your own discs, you're kind of like, oh, great, I've got another disc. I'm probably not going to throw that one if it's not a brand or a make that you're going to want to throw. So in the beginning, discs are great. After that, discs kind of lose their, unless they're commemorative and you're into collecting discs. I mean, from Duncan Holness down at Falcons Flight, he had this great idea, and he's been doing it for a while, and I've kind of adopted it, is whenever you get that commemorative disc from a tournament, it's great. I don't necessarily see it as a disc anymore. I see it as an autograph book sort of thing. Like, I get the people on my card to autograph it. Now I have a memento of that event.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do I want out of it? I don't know. I didn't really answer your question.
Yeah, where did you get to?
Yeah.
I do agree with you.
I've got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as AMs in a tournament, would you rather play the same layout as the pros with added par, or would you rather play a different layout with the normal par?
I prefer the different layout. I think for two reasons. One of them is, I'm going to feel better about my round if I'm playing a course that is made for me and has shots that I can throw at. So I'm going to enjoy that more. But I also think as the AMs get better, they should be encouraged to play the pro course. And if they want to play the pro course, then play in the pro division. If they want to still be and then maybe that's my hot take or something, but if they want to be amateur, don't take the cash, that's fine. But if you want to throw from the furthest tees on every hole, then go compete at that level, and then as it cascades down, make sure it's appropriate for each division on what they're expected to play. That's my thought. But you?
What do you mean by a different layout? Are we talking just like from blues to whites? Or are we talking like a separate course that's...
Blues to whites, or again, changing the baskets between pros and AMs instead of like turning a 4 into a 5.
Right.
And for that, Daryl, let's just throw this at you. Do you remember going to Wally's 100?
Yeah.
How did you enjoy your second round from the blues?
Yeah, okay. No, I think I would rather an AM course that it's more enjoyable to play rather than trying to test myself from a pro course and getting beat up and then thinking like that would just have a negative impact on me. I think playing the pro course,
Yeah.
For me in my game, I don't think I would like you've been out with me. If I don't play very well, I don't enjoy playing.
Yeah, and it's not that we would want a birdie fest by any means. We just want something that's built to our skill level. And, how do you manage that? I think you have to manage it by ratings, right? And say, this is a course that's set up for these ratings. Like I've seen it sometimes too, where you think, oh, just because it's a younger division, let's put them on the reds. But then they don't even enjoy themselves because they're way better than that. So it's find the course that matches the ability so that the person has a good time. Because if I shot a -18 because I was at the reds at Wildman, which are a lot closer than anything else, I would never do that. That's probably a really crazy one. Right. But just I know his reds are a little bit closer than most reds. Yep. I wouldn't enjoy that. That's not what I want to do. I want to be at the whites, but I certainly don't want to be at the blues where I'm hitting first available and then I'm at 5 and I haven't even got halfway through the hole. Mm-hmm. So,
okay, here's a bit of a hot
not at the
take.
white tee you would have thrown at.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. There's a couple holes there that are that way too, right?
Here's a little bit of a hot take. For us at Falcon's Flight,
yes,
we played West Course, East Course, West Course.
Yeah.
Aside from the number that shall but not be named.
Yes.
I didn't really enjoy playing the East Course.
You didn't?
No.
You don't think that hole had anything to do with it?
No, just because there was no... Like, everybody was on the same tee pad, right?
No, there was. I think was there different. Do you remember that, Brock?
There was no different tee pads at East.
I've never played Aspen.
Oh, okay.
I thought Brock was.
Yeah. Well, we might have to have someone else chime in, but
if I remember rightly, on the West Course there was different tee pads.
There were different tee pads, but I think we did play some of the difficult ones.
Right.
But yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to the chat because we want to engage the chat here. So going back to what you were saying about the prize packs or the percentages, sorry. Dylan kind of commented here, even on the pro side, 100% of cashback, even 10 to 20% to go to the tournament operations would probably open up a bit.
A lot of options.
A lot of options. Or am I overestimating the dollars involved?
Yeah. So that's a.
I think that's pretty accurate. Now, like, we do get a deal with the city because of our relationship with them when we're renting city courses and stuff like that. So, like, our fees versus like someone from the public booking the course and would be, so we save money and we make some headway that way. But the other things, like, again, we don't get a deal on port potties kind of thing, and that's surprisingly expensive for a weekend. So it would go a long way to balancing things out. But that's also where us as TDs are supposed to utilize the pass-through fees and just kind of take it off the top before it's even calculated.
Right. And then going back to what we were talking about, players packs, Sam put in here, good player packs are awesome. I mean, I'm pretty jazzed to get anything, but really I'm there for the rounds of disc golf.
Yeah.
Which is kind of goes back to what we were saying about, you know, you go to watch a movie, you go there to watch a movie and enjoy the experience.
Yeah. If you get anything extra, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Right? So, but we've established this through the PDGA that, and I guess one thing does is make sure that money doesn't get abused is what it's doing. So maybe it's causing a better accounting that needs to be done for that experience. Because let's say you went into a tournament like Get In, Get Out, Get Rated, which we just said was a great time and we enjoyed it. And we had, what was our fee? $5?
Yeah.
But say you paid $50 for that. Well, that's not value at that point, because what happened to the other $45 to do that event for what we had experienced? So there is got to be that balance in there, but I don't think that balance is 100% of what I put in is
and like to the Carrie's point about putting like the pass-through fee for Team Canada or whatever. If I'm raising money for something, I am not touching a PDGA sanctioning at all if I can avoid it. Like, I know some people won't play events that aren't sanctioned. That's their choice. They prefer that super competitive environment. They want the rating all the time. That's fine. But you can raise a lot more money without having to pay the PDGA fees and the payouts and all that. And the other thing is that in Canada versus the United States, the States has a provision for charity tournaments to waive PDGA fees.
Okay.
Where that's not available in Canada. So we still have to pay the sanctioning fees where they don't in the States. So.
Well, this probably isn't good for PDGA on this take on it, but what I would think is if you want to give me, and we can all work on putting these together, because I know Kristen and Tim did a fantastic job on it, let's put in a Get In, Get Out, Get Rated once a month that we can go into for our $5. But then we can do so many unsanctioned things, and when they're unsanctioned, you can have a lot more fun. Like I'm thinking, you know, we just watched the whole Team Canada match play happen. Why don't we do a match play for our players to be part of? Or even with Kevin just talking about this battle royale format. Now, none of those things fit into a PDGA sanctioned event. So give me my Get In, Get Out, Get Rated. I'll play that to get my rating because I want that.
Right.
But then give me as much fun as we can do. And if, you know, there's, instead of me getting a disc guaranteed, maybe there's, you know, a bunch of discs that are bought where you know you can give them away as part of draws and maybe fun and different ways aside from just who shot the best score. Maybe who shot the most honest score, or as we saw at She's Up First, who had the longest drive to get to the tournament. Like, you know, do fun things like that. And yeah, I would enjoy that. So, but I don't know if that's just because we've played long enough. So, but
so there was an old Gatekeeper video where they played a skins match, but instead of money for each skin, it was lottery tickets. So, like, I was thinking, again, like, $20 registration fee that covers $1 for a lottery ticket each hole. You've got 4 players. That's a $4 lottery ticket for each skin that you win. And then you've got $2 at the end to give away some prizes or something. And then you have the chance to win $10,000.
Yeah, that's it. You just have to have them report afterwards, and you can say, "Yeah, you know how great this tournament was. We gave away
exactly.
10 grand."
Well, that's kind of what I said about the get in, get out, get rated. Part of our player pack was a lottery scratch ticket, and I said to you, I said, if I scratch this off and I actually get some money, that'll be the highest cash that I've made this year.
Yeah, he was wondering if he'd have to become pro because he took his cash prize.
My lottery ticket, yeah.
Is there any more comments you want to get to? But I'm thinking, I think we hit that one pretty good. Like, that's what one of the things I love about these conversations is that there's some ideas that come out of it, and now it's just a question of, do other people hear it? Can we action it? Is there something to make more out of it?
We want the chat to be involved, so we got some question. We got a point here from Dylan again. So, friend of the show, Alex Penny, was telling me about all his Flex C tiers that he runs in one day down in Calgary. What are your thoughts on those? A Flex start would be interesting.
Yeah, because I haven't seen a lot of Flex starts in our area.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of them. I'd love to try it. I like Flex starts are usually one round, so like, I think we'd still do pretty good. And I think, again, I wouldn't expect it to be a very fancy tournament, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty similar to a get in, get rated kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely on my radar because, again, like, we don't even know what the reception would be at this point to that format. So we may as well run it and at least learn from the experience to see what the appetite is in the area to keep those kind of things running. Because I know we do get a lot of feedback that the 2-day events are too much for a lot of people. And even 2 rounds in a day can be difficult. So having that flexibility to still work half a day or switch childcare arrangements and all that, just needing that one round could be good.
Yeah. Dylan also pointed out that he mentioned that you don't have to rent the park out, which is a big plus.
Yeah.
You mentioned there about, working with the city.
Yeah, that's interesting there. Is there anything you want to hit on this one, Brock, that we didn't cover maybe on the AM side? I think we cleaned that one up a bit. No, I don't think we've solved all the issues or anything, but I think we've hit it pretty good. But going from tournaments and kind of making that tournament experience a good thing, I kind of wanted to switch it up to something that you're quite familiar with, and kind of how it's with disc golf clubs, how differing and varying they are and what makes a good club. And I think, as you mentioned, is how do we add more value to it? So as the vice president of EDGA, current, you've got inside knowledge on how a disc golf club works, and a successful one at that, which we got to mention because one of probably the most successful clubs in Canada. And, when we look at it, our club we pay $20 a year, a flat cost. And for that $20, we get access to all the various leagues that EDGA puts on, the tournaments that they put on. We get discounts from a lot of different club sponsors, to sign up for our PDGA membership. And then we get the unique ability to play at Niska-Pasquak, which is a restricted and, as we all know, an amazing course. I've praised it so many times. So I think we get a lot of good value out of that. Do you think that's enough value for a membership? Like, where do you think we sit on the spectrum of different clubs that are out there?
I think we do a really good job. And full credit to our sponsors and the people out at Alberta Hospital. Those two kind of things really drive our memberships. Also, shout out to the board because we've made a concerted effort to reduce the cost of the membership since I started in 2021. So originally, you had to buy a bay tag separately for $5 if you wanted to have one.
Okay.
And now we just build that in. Same thing, I think, it was either $30 or $25 for a membership, and we reduced it to 20 just because that's a easier number for someone to pull out of their pocket kind of thing. So there's those kind of like balancing acts where you have to think, okay, how much can I play with the cost, and will that drive memberships, or if I stay at the same level, will I just lose money in the end? So yeah, I think we do good, but I think there's lots of things we can build in that I see other clubs do a lot of. So like something I think Calgary does a great job of is they run a lot more clinics than we do.
Right.
Just again, show up and like when someone approaches us about, hey, I've got this sports group, kids group, school, something like that, can you come help us out with disc golf? We do what we can to meet their needs and go out there and do that, but it's not something that we just like schedule and put out there. Even like the guys in Fort Saskatchewan have been great about doing that over the past summer when they're like pop courses and everything. So, but that comes down to the volunteers. Who do you have to go out there on a Wednesday afternoon when a school is asking for someone to do a demonstration?
Yeah. So. Well, and that goes, I'm sure the club goes to take that on, but maybe that's part of the things that can be extended out to club membership to say, you know, obviously you have to qualify people and you want to make sure that they're representing the club properly before you just send out any random person out to a school or whatever it is, like this guy. But maybe there's things too, is like if you're a club member and you do help us with these clinics and these events, then there's ways we can help you out. When we get our next batch of EDGA discs, you're going to get your choice of one or something like that. And then it might it adds value to the club. It makes me feel like I'm doing something for the club, and it doesn't make the board feel like it's all on their shoulders and they are the ones that have to go out and do it.
Yeah. And it's less of a volunteer commitment as well, because being on the board is a 2-year commitment.
Yep.
Volunteering for an afternoon is a lot more palatable for some people. So,
yeah.
And you know what? I've been on both sides of it. I've been on a board myself, and I understand that, even though it's like, you know, one meeting a month maybe, or depending on what it is. But then there's a lot of other things that go along with it. And what I've come to is that's my involvement. It's like, you need help setting up for something? Give me a call. I'll come help set up. I don't need to discuss how many chairs we need and how many tables we need, but I'll show up and I'll set them all up for you. And that's kind of that level. And I think there might be a lot more people who fit into that, where they don't want the mantle and the responsibility of the title, but they're more than happy to help out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't exactly know what their position entails, but I know we do have member at large positions. Now, is that not just a catch-all volunteer position? And is there a limit? Position... I guess, sorry, just to follow on from that, is there a limit of how many member at large positions you can have on the EDGA board, or on any board, I guess?
So that would be according to the bylaws. So EDGA bylaws are we have to have a board size of 5 to 11. So that's the 4 kind of positions you see at all of them: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Then we have room for 6 member at large positions.
Right.
Then a few years back, they changed the bylaws to say some specific positions. So maintenance, growth, programming, something else I'm forgetting. Oh, communications. Yeah.
Communications.
So then we have 2 kind of just general member at large positions, and really that's participate in the board meetings is the kind of minimum requirement for that.
Gotcha. Right. And that makes sense. And then I think too, like we had a little bit of a chat with Tim on the weekend, because we had said, you know, if you have a really strong year where you have a number of people who want to participate, the last thing you want to do is turn them away when you have this set of assets ready and willing to help a club. But then he had said what the provisions might allow is these are the voting board members,
right?
But that doesn't mean that you can't have, say, and we were using the example of the communications person, they could have a subcommittee that has people helping with publicity or helping getting sponsorships or whatever it would be, but they just don't get a chance to vote. Is that the right understanding we kind of have of it?
Yeah, and like anyone who wants to can also attend our monthly board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are public if anybody wants to attend. We've never had someone say, "Hey, I'd really like to chime in here." But yeah, you're completely right. Like, they just wouldn't have the capacity to vote on any of the motions we put forward. But they could certainly express their opinion in favor or against a motion to try and convince board members one way or another.
Yeah, so I think that might be something too, because I know we're actually going to be doing well, I guess I say we because I'm part of the club, but the EDGA new
AGM.
position, the AGM, thank you, the annual general meeting's happening right away. So I would think we hope to have a great show out there and a lot of people who are interested. And I would say is that if you're a person who's interested and you don't get picked for a position, or you don't want that type of heavy responsibility, maybe reach out to the person who's doing something as closely related to how you want to help and be involved, and then let them know. Because I bet you there's, if someone came up to you today and said, "Hey, Brock, I don't want to be on the board, but I really, really want to get more involved in X. I don't know, pick your thing. I'd love to help try and figure out prize packs." I'm sure you'd be like, "Perfect, please come help me figure out prize packs." But
Yeah, and a great way to let us know as well, if you can't reach us in person or Facebook or whatever, we usually have a spot on the membership registration form to say, "I'd like to volunteer," and where you'd like to volunteer, because we do build a mailing list specifically of those volunteers,
Right.
and reach out before our tournaments to say, "Hey, here's what we're looking for. You guys said you'd be interested. Can anyone help us on this day?" kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good to hear. Just bringing it back slightly to the memberships and the value. I don't want to take credit for this. Jeremy did some research of the Calgary membership, which you kind of touched on there already. But he also had a look at the Minnesota Frisbee Association. And I thought this kind of stood out to me because they have they have a $5 basic membership. It just supports the club. Then you can upgrade. $10 gets you meeting and voting rights, summer tour and double series points, potentially qualify for cash payouts, and a cup eligibility as well. Then you can go up to a $30 tier, and then there's another tier above that, I believe.
No, I think...
Or $30 was the highest tier. What are your thoughts on having a tier system for memberships with different?
I would...
Yeah,
I would really love to do something like that. Again, I think the disc sales that we do, they do really well every year. So, we're going to keep doing that, and being able to just roll that into your membership would be great. Our struggle right now is the technology. I'm not trying to administer that through a Google form.
Yes.
Well, I think you said
so.
Didn't you say last year that last year was the last year that Google's forms would be for the sign up?
We're pushing for it.
I remember.
I'm doing what I can, Daryl. Yeah. So yes, that is my sincere hope is that this year's membership.
We forgot
something else. No. I literally had a few meetings last week, talking to different technology providers and payment processors and stuff. So.
Yeah.
There's more to it than everybody thinks, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think another thing too, when we're talking about adding club value, again, inspired to me recently by the whiff diff, the match play and the teams in that, I thought, what would happen if we started to kind of get together with other clubs? And we know Fort McMurray's got a healthy club. Grand Prairie does pretty well. I believe Drayton, kind of go through central Alberta, Calgary, Lethbridge, maybe even going into Cranbrook and over to Regina or Saskatoon. I'm naming a lot of places, but
you're not getting
I'm kind of getting to a number of clubs, but you can see there's a lot of these healthy clubs. Well, maybe by being a club member, you could get selected and go to a club playoff and play that same type of match play and the knockout elimination and the same type of setup. And, because I just keep thinking about, we see so many players, whatever course we're out at, and a lot of them aren't members. How do we get them to be members? What are those little things? So for people who are already members, this is ways to enhance it. So that would be a great idea on the current members. But then what do we do to get people who aren't members? How many times have you preached join the EDGA?
Oh yeah, lots of times. And we spoke to Tim about the percentage of people that you see playing, and the percentage of those people that are actual EDGA members, right? Mm-hmm. So it's trying to get those players to be on the board, or on the club. Sorry. Yeah.
What have you guys kind of thought about ways of kind of encouraging, or even say for us as other club members, how do we go about it and convince them to join? Is there any, I know that's this, if we had that secret, we'd be.
Yeah.
I can't say, I don't have a script for you to walk up to people with, knock on doors kind of thing. But I think changing out our signage at the courses to be, especially Rundle, to be more modern, even just putting our website on all the signs kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is something that's coming next year, hopefully. And so we'll have a big board at Rundle that shows the full course and talks about the rules of disc golf and EDGA and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those passive kind of things, again, can we put band wraps on the baskets that have our logo and stuff on it? And then it is getting out into the community and just getting in front of people. So last 2 weekends ago, Graham and I sat at Service Place in St. Albert for 3 hours at St. Albert Sports Day.
Okay.
Just had our little table at Service Place among all the minor hockey associations and baseball and the Nordic Ski Club and triathlons, and just finding those events to get in front of people, show them, hey, here's the courses, here's where you can buy discs, you spend $20 and you're good, and kind of thing. And then getting to the point where we can actually afford promotional items at those things too. If we can give out a mini disc to all the kids that come through, kind of thing. It's not a huge expense, but they might go home and play with it for a while.
That's it.
That kind of thing. So
yeah,
there's lots of avenues to approach. It's capacity and where do we spend our time for the most bang.
Yeah. The two things I wanted to say there was, I didn't know that you and Graham were out at St. Albert there. I didn't realize that event was going on. Almost sounds like you need a good communications person that would promote that a little bit. Just putting it out there. The second thing, and I guess it's a double-edged sword, because the great thing about disc golf is that you can buy a starter pack from Canadian Tire or United Cycle. You can get out to the course. You don't have to pay any fees. You can play. You have a great day. So why would anybody want to join EDGA when, what do they get out of it? They are already playing the game. They don't need any green fees. They don't need any special equipment or anything like that. They've got everything they need for free. So it's offering that value and saying, this is why you want to spend your money to get into the EDGA. If you're not playing tournaments.
Well, it's pumping things like NISCA and that, because it's one of those things is that if you access UDisc, you see that course just waiting to be played, but you can't play it. So it's things like that that definitely do add the value for sure.
We need a big broken down car on hole 1 at Rundle, painted fountain tire, yellow and blue, saying if this person was an EDGA member, they could have afforded their oil change. And put the $79.99, cross it out, $40 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, so those things work. Another thing I've heard too, and just adding to clubs and kind of getting people engaged in it a little more, was I believe it might have been Fort McMurray. They had a women's grant, and one of the things they did was they bought starter sets and encouraged women to join the league. And what they did was the first time they came out, they got the putter. and they got to play, and they got to, they got a bit of a clinic, and they played some holes and had some fun that way. And then I think they came out the second time with their putter and did it again. And when they came out the third time, they got their mid. And then by the time they came out their fifth or sixth time, they got their fairway. And then it gave them that reason and that motivation to keep coming out and to get into the sport. So one of the probably other reasons is I go out once in a while. Why do I need to join a club? Well, it's probably building that interest in, I guess sometimes could we say addiction to disc golf?
Yeah, getting them hooked. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that's an idea to always think about as well. So. But.
And I just thought of it. I know it's maybe not, I guess it is kind of tied into the EDGA membership, but I know we spoke to Tim about this a long time ago, was, you talked about women and getting the one disc at a time. Mm-hmm. Where is EDGA sitting on the junior programs? Like, how many schools are we getting in front of? Is it a case of we're waiting, I say we, as in EDGA, we're waiting for schools to approach EDGA to say, hey, can we get someone to come out and give us a demonstration? Or is someone from EDGA, I know we don't have a junior board position or anything like that, but are we actively reaching out to schools to say, hey, we can send someone, potentially, we could have somebody do a demo of disc golf, getting the younger kids, and hopefully then younger kids will go back to their parents and say, hey, I want to take up this sport.
Mm-hmm. It's mostly been schools coming to us at this point.
Right.
And like other community groups. Allie's done as good a job as she can to try and build our junior program. Right. For whatever reason, we just can't seem to get traction with it. Right. And unfortunately, some parents seem to treat it as more of a babysitting service when we do run the events.
Right.
Okay. So there's definitely like I do think there's an opportunity to reach out to schools. But there's also that caveat that, okay, we reach out to Edmonton Public and they're like, great, here's 100 schools that we want you to go to kind of thing. So it's building that capacity and finding the ways to do it. Cause I see the things in Calgary and they seem well attended and something. So again, on my list of things to talk to other people about is kind of how Calgary built their program.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's where we need to organize. I'm big on these, so Daryl's gonna smile when I say it. But to build like a president/vice president, or however, 2 board representatives from each club to get together and to brainstorm what's successful. Because Calgary's far enough from Edmonton that whatever we do here isn't impacting them, and if it is, it's impacting them in a positive way because it's another disc golfer playing in Edmonton who's probably going to end up in Calgary at some point to play a tournament. So overall, it just helps each other. So there should be more coordination of efforts, I think, in that regard.
Yeah, and that's where DGAA is trying to build kind of thing, and that's been a great resource for me to talk to some of the other clubs through there. But not everybody's part of that. Mm-hmm. And again, they're very busy running their own clubs. So
yeah.
Well, there you go. I don't know that we're not solving all the issues, but we're coming up with good ideas.
Exactly.
And just to give you an idea of how we're already feeling the impact of these conversations was when we spoke with Carrie and Clive last week, we talked about publicity and why do people not know about what's going on with WIFDIF, and it inspired us. So what we ended up doing was we went out and we put together a little kind of press release of our own and made sure it was very clear it was Chain Out Podcast. We weren't Can Disc Golf. We weren't WIFDIF. We weren't any of those people.
Is this the Royal We?
Yeah, the Royal We, the Chain Out group. And what we did was we put that out and we sent it to every newspaper we could find of the kind of hometowns of the players. So we're excited about that stuff. We hope that helps grow, and we want to hope that some of the ideas that we talk about here will either have us doing something, have you maybe doing something, someone else that's listening and growing it. So last thing on that one that I want to throw out there was that if anybody is living in one of the pros towns and they see an article in the paper, we're not saying that we were the ones who got it there, but we do want to hear about it because that'll be pretty exciting to know that Whiff Diff got some coverage, because I don't think, aside from anybody who watches disc golf, we're probably the only ones who know about it. So,
Well, yeah, and that's like, you guys do a great job. I love coming on here. I'm not really bringing people into EDGA talking on this podcast.
right.
I need to go on the podcasts that have nothing to do with disc golf, but are like events in Edmonton or something like that, to build the sport there. Kind of.
This is the preaching to the choir podcast, right?
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is good as well, I'm sure, because it hopefully we inspire the choir to go preach to other people too. Maybe not too much of a religious
tell
bent
me
on
about
it, but
podcasts to go on.
So what you're saying is
disc golf.
you need a communication/publicity board member that would reach out to all these newspapers and podcasts and people and
If
arrange
there's
interviews.
something out there.
Yeah. Okay.
nice.
I'll bear it in mind.
Well, Daryl, I think we've dug into about as much as we can dig into, but I know we like to finish these ones off with a little bit of lighthearted stuff. Should
we
have
do
something?
it?
Yeah.
Okay. So way back when, probably in episode 1,
Yes, it was.
it was
way
that
back
long
then.
time ago. I had a quiz. I had a Chat GPT quiz lined up for us to do because we were trying to get content back then, and then we went in a different direction. So I'm back at it. I went to Chat GPT to come up with a disc golf related quiz for you. So Jeremy doesn't know what these questions are.
No
It
idea.
is multiple choice. Some of them are easy. I did ask it to get it a little bit harder. What do you want to do? Do you want to go one question each?
Yeah. Why don't we do? What do you think, Brock? Why don't we do how many do you have? How many questions?
10. Well, I've got 2 quizzes, but they're 10 questions each. So I can just do
Why don't we do
one quiz.
Do you want to do best 3 out of 5? Does that sound good? So
Best out of 5?
Sure.
first to 3. That's what that would be. Because if we're going back and forth, so first to 3. Let's do that.
Who's going first?
Brock, you can go first.
Okay, first one.
Honored guest.
Sure.
First question. What is the standard diameter of a disc golf basket? And I'll give you your options. So you have 18 inches, 21 inches, 24 inches, or 27 inches.
So I know it is
Oh, yeah.
the width of 2 Ultra Stars touching the pole.
Okay.
Because
really?
that's how they made it at first, because that's what the thing is. 21.
21 is your answer. The answer is 27 inches.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you give that as an option?
Yeah.
Well, if it's multiple choice, maybe we should both guess, unless the first one. I don't know. Give me one now. We'll keep it for this way.
Okay.
All right. What's my question? All right, Brock. These don't sound like they're going to be easy though. But your UltraStar knowledge is pretty amazing. I wouldn't have known that.
Okay. When throwing from a designated lie,
Yes.
how far behind the marker disc are players allowed to stand?
Okay.
Your options are up to 6 inches, up to 8 inches, up to 10 inches, up to 12 inches.
Well, I know it's supposed to be like an 8.5 by 11, so now it's either up to 10 or it's up to 12 behind their lie.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's up to 10.
It is up to 10 inches.
You got the easy one.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I was going to say 12 because I'm like, when people say it's like the size of a sheet of paper, well, 8.5 by 11, should I be at 12 or should I be at 10?
Is it like a 2x4 that's not actually 2x4? It's 1.5 by 3.5?
Yeah.
I bought some 2x4s for my fence this year, and they're like an inch too short to reach post to post. I'm very frustrated.
Yeah. All right, what you got next?
Okay. We're going to go to a PDGA rules question again here.
Oh, he's not making it easy on you, Brock.
No, I'm giving him an easy one here.
Okay.
According to PDGA rules, what is the minimum allowable width for a disc golf fairway?
The options are?
The options are 10 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. No specific width is required.
I've got to say no specific width is required.
It is no specific width. Yeah, I thought maybe you might get caught on there the fact that it was a minimum. You always think about maximum, but was there an actual minimum width that they? But no, there is no minimum width.
Well, that's interesting.
I mean, again, being up at Athabasca, there's what, like 2 feet on some of those holes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you always think it's probably like you'd almost think it was the width of the tee box or something, whatever the tee box regulation is. Because how do you really get it much smaller than that? I guess you can, but maybe with the trees.
Well, and if it's
lined
like
on either
sparsely
side.
treed, what is a fairway?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit. His questions are a little suspect here, Brock. But
Well,
we're now 1-1.
It is ChatGPT, so I had to make them harder because honestly, some of the questions were what is the term for scoring 1 under par? I think those were a little bit too easy for you. Okay, Jeremy.
Okay.
According to PDGA rules, what is the maximum weight allowed for a disc in competitive play?
All right, give it to me. I
Now,
think I already got it, but keep going.
Okay. Would you want a bonus point if you get it right? Well, I don't know because the answer that ChatGPT gave me, I don't think is the right answer. But your options are 155 grams, 165 grams, 175 grams, or 200 grams.
Well, if those are the choices,
see, it's not one of the choices that you thought.
No,
is it?
I'd say 175 in that example because I would have said 180 was the max that I would think. But
what would you say, Brock?
200.
So the answer that GPT gave me was 175.
All right,
but I thought it was 200.
But we know there's 180 discs and stuff, so
and that's
I'm going to get it with an asterisk.
Are they allowed in a PDGA sanctioned event?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because the maximum weight is a function of the size of a disc. So that's why mid-ranges can be 180 because they're bigger.
Right.
So then you've got stuff like an Innova Condor, which is even bigger, and I believe that's where it gets allowed up to 200.
Oh, okay.
I think they're called like super class discs or something.
Gotcha.
Great. Sorry, I've been ignoring the chat, but yeah, Sam's kind of on your lines there. Each disc has a max weight when approved. He thought it was 180 for mids and 175 for drivers.
Okay, well maybe that's where we got the 175.
That's where we got that number from. Yeah.
All right, I got 2, Brock. You got to get these next ones.
Okay, so you're saying I got to give you an easy question. Okay.
It's Brock's.
I got to give Brock an easy question.
No, he doesn't need easy.
What is considered a falling putt, and where must a player be positioned for this to result in a penalty? A putt made from outside the 10-meter circle. B, a putt made from inside the 10-meter circle without maintaining balance. Any putt where the player steps forward. Any putt where a player is positioned near an obstacle.
I believe that's B, when you're in the circle and you fail to maintain balance.
You got that one right.
All right, we're all tied up here. So maybe with this one, Brock, we both just have to throw our guesses out at the same time and see who's got it.
Okay. If a disc lands out of bounds, where does the player throw their next shot? From the last point in... Oh, no, sorry, that was the wrong question. That was an easy question that I got them to redo.
All right.
In which scenario would a player be required to rethrow from their previous lie? When the disc rolls into a lake, when the disc is lost in an area with thick bushes, when the disc is thrown and hits a mando on the wrong side, when the disc lands less than 10 meters from the basket.
What was the question? When are they required to rethrow?
I will repeat the question.
Okay,
In
more
which
time.
scenario would a player be required to rethrow from their previous lie?
Okay.
And the answers are when the disc rolls into a lake, when the disc is lost in an area with thick bushes, when the disc is thrown and hits the wrong side of a mando, when the disc lands less than 10 meters from the basket.
All right. We'll shout out our letter at the same time or do you want to letter them or number them, Brock? What do you want to do?
Letters, fine.
All right, letters. All right, we'll get on the count of 3.
There's a problem with the question.
Yeah, I think there is as well because I just looked at the answer.
We'll have to get Daryl to work on the quizzes. It's the first one. But why don't we on the
So out
count
of those
3,
4 scenarios.
Yeah. Okay, so ready? You count us down 1, 2, 3, and then we'll both say our number.
Okay.
Our letter.
There's a bit of a delay with Brock, but then it's okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
B.
B and C.
So, I got to find which question I asked. So 7. So their answer was C, when the disc is thrown and hits the wrong side of a Mando.
There you go.
Because you said B as well, right?
So,
when the disc is lost in an area with
Yeah.
thick bushes. But isn't the ruling that
I guess if it went out of bounds and you saw where it
Well,
went
no, it's not
OB,
out of bounds.
No, it got lost, right?
it just got lost? If you threw a disc and it was a lost disc, but you knew the area that it went into,
I think there is a rule about that, isn't there, Brock? There's
No.
a rule
You-
that if everybody knows
you-
approximately where it was, or no?
only if it went OB.
Oh, if it went OB, okay.
And this actually happened to me at Oil Sands.
Oh, did
2
it?
years ago. So I can't remember if it's hole 3 or 4. You're coming out of the woods towards that pond. I throw my hex. It hits some trees. We can't find it. So I have to take a lost disc, and you return to your previous lie, even though we all knew it was in this 15-foot circle.
Right.
If you
Gotcha.
can't find it. But if it's OB and the party or the card agrees where it went OB, then you mark the OB and take it.
oh, okay.
And
Fair
then
enough.
the Mando rule is also a little
Yeah, it doesn't specify a drop zone or
different
anything
because
like
it
that.
depends. Yeah, if you don't specify a drop zone, then it's back to your previous line.
All right. Well, Brock, congratulations on being the first Around the Basket quiz winner.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll try and do better next time. There you go. You get a round of applause.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything you want to kind of throw out there before we wrap it up, Brock?
Anybody who wants to come to the AGM, you should come. Sea Change Brewing on I don't know,
Sunday, the
address.
17th.
Sunday, 8:30, 7:30. I don't know. Sunday
Yeah.
evening.
There was an
Should
email
come
that was
out.
sent out today.
Yeah, there's an email, lots of posts. It's Sunday, this Sunday coming up, November 17th, Sea Change Brewery on the
Time,
south side.
8 to 9:30. Location, Sea Change Brewing, 9850 62 Ave Northwest.
Yeah.
Or, if you can't make it in person, you can participate online via Google Meet. There is a link, but you'll have to be an EDGA member to click that link.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
There you go.
That's all.
All right,
Come
well,
on
we'll
out.
see you there, and we know that you might be, while you're looking to maybe stick around on the board, and we hope everything works well, and we will be there to help support you with that.
Yeah. My term technically, my term is not up.
Gotcha. Oh, okay,
Well,
so you've still
we-
got one more year, yeah.
We've spoken to you about this before because you've held like 3 or 4 positions in advance each time.
Oh, yeah, I
prior,
change every
prior. Yeah. So you're kind of like backdated by a couple years on all these other positions.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll be there. At least one of us is there for sure, if not both of us. So
You may not be going?
I don't know. Are you not going?
No, I'm definitely
I just
going.
didn't want to commit you.
Oh, well, I'm going. No, for sure. I will be there.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks, Brock. We'll catch you there.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time, Brock.
Spend with you guys.
Thanks, everybody in the chat.
Have a good night.
Don't forget to subscribe to our Patreon, and you can be... This episode will be going out probably on Saturday, but if you subscribe to our Patreon and you get the link, then you can be in the chat and you can be asking all the questions and enjoying all the fun as well.
That's right.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.